All right guys, today we're going to talk about home use gas pressure washers. I have a ton of questions about higher end electric pressure washers, but the reality is most of you guys asking those questions need something that is a gas pressure washer. You don't want to spend a lot of money. So I went out on Amazon, believe it or not, found this dude for $250, free shipping. It is a 3200 PSI, or at least that's what they call it, right? And says 2.4 gallons per minute up here. This unit really intrigued me because what are we gonna get with an Amazon gas pressure washer? That, to me, is the huge question. I'm gonna answer that. Stay tuned. Before we get started, I'm going to highly suggest you look in the description if you're interested in this unit. Purchase these screw-on quick disconnects. They would work on the wand and they would also work on the pump at the bottom. And you would have to buy a separate hose or use this hose, but buy the other side of the fitting for these quick disconnects. And it would really make life using this much more simple. I'm also using this high pressure soap sprayer from Ryobi that I got at the Home Depot. This is nice because it does have a warranty and it's easily returned if it didn't work. I'm gonna go through this video backwards because first I wanna see if you're even interested in this unit with the performance and with the noise. Then we'll move on to probably putting some of it together and how it feels and what items you should buy to make this really work easily for you. So starting out, performance. This thing's actually very impressive. When you start it up, it's not that loud and it starts very, very easily. Now, it is made in China. It is what I would expect from China in some ways. The build quality is the same that I would expect from any Ryobi that I pulled off the shelf and brought home, except for the fact that it is packaged much better. I've had many, many Ryobis come home here and they're broken or parts are just thrown in there and they've been rattled around. This actually came boxed quite nice. That could change obviously because it is Amazon and UPS sometimes has some weird hubs that they go through and they get beat up. But this came in without any damage. As expected, anything from China, the instruction manual is significantly lacking, but I'd like to show here first they rate this as a 3200 PSI pressure washer, and while using it at 2.4 gallons per minute, it's really difficult for me to tell you how many PSI it is because anything that I have that's above 3000 PSI is also 3 gallons per minute. But in the specs, operating pressure, 2500 PSI. That makes total sense to me because this really, if you changed it to green, would be exactly like any of the other Ryobi pressure washers that I've purchased that are much, much more expensive. So realistically, this thing is 2500 PSI, 2.4 gallons per minute. It has a Ratto 173cc engine. No horsepower rating at all. Fuel tank is 1.5 liters. It does not come with any oil. That's one thing that Ryobi at least packages you with, a little bottle of oil. In this case, you need a ½ liter of oil. I would suggest straight 30 weight because you're going to be using it in the summer. Fill it up with oil, you're ready to rock and roll. This unit's quiet. There's no idle down when you're not using the pressure washer. So it stays at a fairly high idle, and then as soon as you crank on the hose, it kicks in, puts a load on the motor, kicks up the RPM slightly, and then you're using it without issue. Now, I'm using this on my barn. It needed some serious cleaning, and you're gonna see that it is not getting anything off, and that's because I'm using a specific kind of car washing soap, and I have insect guts and dead pieces and junk all over that I've even scrubbed on and they're still not coming off. So I need to change my soaps up a little bit. That is not the performance issue with this pressure washer. It works great. It works exactly as I would expect any big box store pressure washer of this rating to to work. I'm absolutely blown away, literally, because I expected to get something that's going to be super loud, super rough idle, something that I could stall multiple times just by pulling the trigger here, and I can't. I really can't find too many things wrong with it while using it. The soap worked good, just like any other soap did or does. I will say that the hose on mine is a little bit short on the inside, and they put metal weight to keep the hose down in the soap. As the soap got a little bit low, and the vibrations from any pressure washer, or specifically this one, but any of them have the same amount of vibrations, that hose is stiff enough in there that it'll move around and come out of the soap. That was the only problem I had, but realistically that's simple to fix just by pushing a little more hose through into the reservoir tank. There is no drain on the bottom of this, so that is one thing we all ask about. Can we drain it out? You could drill a hole, add a drain anytime you wanted to, but very standard on any pressure washer. As far as instructions in starting this, it tells you read the manual before operations. The manual is not going to help you. Basically, all you have here is a power on off switch and a choke. It's real simple to figure out. First time I started it, I didn't know what position the choke was in. The choke is forward. We'll talk more about that when we come in and look around here. This thing works as far as if you're looking for an affordable pressure washer that's going to be easy to maintain. It still is gas, but realistically, it's very affordable, and it's right up the same alley as what you're going to get in a big box store. So at this point, let's come in and just walk around this unit so you can see exactly what it is. All right, looking at this from the side, when I talked about the choke, it's right here. Forward choke is on, backwards choke is off. Here's your on-off switch. That's basically all you need. The pull start is over on the side, and it was super easy to pull. This has a standard foam filter. You're gonna find this style foam filter in just about every inexpensive pressure washer or anything as far as engine that's out there. Same exact stuff. You have large tires on this, which is nice, and you have a quick disconnect wand. So you have 5 tips, right? They only give you spots to store 4. They're expecting you to keep the 5th on the unit. I dislike that. I wish there was another place to store one of these. It would make it easy, but it does give you a wide variety of tips between a soap tip and all the way down to 0. So that's nice. Filling this unit up, simple. The gas is in a great place. It is a plastic gas can, so it's not gonna rust out. It says E10 or less, so ethanol is never good in any of these units. I'm gonna suggest that you use Stable or Stable Marine 360 or even Rec Fuel and Stable just to keep this reliable, because that's what people don't like gas engines for, because eventually this little carburetor that's right behind this air filter will gum up, and there you go. It sucks. As far as a fuel shutoff, there's nothing that is sitting here that we can see. Your fuel line comes right out of the tank and goes into the carburetor. So no automatic fuel shutoff, no nothing. You wanted to add something, it'd be very simple. You could just cut this hose here or here. You're in business, you could add a fuel shutoff. On the other side of the unit, we have our exhaust, which actually didn't get too hot. I was surprised, and it does have a guard around it, so no issue. This is where you're gonna fill your oil, and you have your dipstick over here. It's easy to read with 2 holes and some hatching in between. Very simple. There's not a lot to this, and it is made to be super simple. The one complaint, I guess, that I have, and I have this about any lesser expensive pressure washer, is the connection between the hose and the wand and the hose and the pump. It's this screw-off kind, and they have basically an O-ring style in there, and you have to screw it on. There is no swivel once it's screwed on. So I'm gonna leave links in the description for you guys to look at a quick connect system. This basically screws in permanently to your wand, and then it gives you a quick connect. I'll also leave a link to a longer hose because this is only a 20-foot hose, and realistically when you're using something like this, 50-foot hoses work a lot better, especially if you're working around cars or anything else. This is huge because, as we'll see in 1 second when we come around at the bottom, it's a little bit hard to attach a hose to the bottom. Coming around back, you can see here's where we would connect the hose, which this would be nice if it was just a quick disconnect here, and then the hose or your garden hose or your water supply is going to connect on the bottom. That too, this axle is just in the way, but you could put a quick disconnect here for a garden hose and make it simple, but you're not messing with this too often. So it works. Everything else here is very basic as far as how it's constructed, but the wheels are nice and large. Everything here fits well. I just wish it had a longer hose and some quick disconnects. So while using this, you'll see me use a variety of different things between trying to get soap on the building with the actual soap nozzle, which doesn't spray soap far. So I hate to say this, but I've looked at foam cannons, I've looked at a lot of these soap sprayers, and this Ryobi model is like 29 bucks, 20, maybe 19 to $30. I'll leave a link to this guy in the bottom too, as long as they still make it. This actually is adjustable between 0 and probably a 40-degree fan. It's just kind of one of those clamps that clamps down on the 0 degree to push it out. It's not the best, right? But it stays together and it works. So you can turn your soap on and off here, but you can spray high pressure soap. While that doesn't clean a whole lot unless you have heat, but you can spray high pressure soap all over everything. So you can clean things with some soap. It helps slightly, but in the instance of cars or houses, you can spray the soap long distances. So you put it to its 0 degree tip. It'll spray a mixture of soap and water a long distance up, and it's really useful. In this case, this machine ran that absolutely perfectly. Love it. I would say 2500 PSI was right where it was at, and it worked excellent. Another highly recommended piece that is a quick connect fitting that does work on this wand. When I did spray soap through the soap nozzle from below, when I let off the trigger on the wand with a large amount of soap in there, for a little bit with the soap, I did get some additional spray coming through. I think that's simply because of the O-rings, and it could tell us a little bit about the longevity or quality of the wand that's here and how much it will work. But once that soap was done and water came through, I had zero issue with any leaking at all. Assembly of this unit was super simple. You basically open the box, pull everything out, and you'll find that everything is basically connected to this main carriage system. The only thing you have to connect is going to be the upper part and the wheels. Now, the wheels slide on very easily. In fact, they're just a little push pin that goes in through and makes the axle sit in the right place. I like that. It's something that I can easily pull off, put back on. I can take that apart, lube it up if I wanted to, and then there's caps that go over the top to stop any water or anything else from getting in there. But it's all easily accessible again if I'd like to take them off. So I don't have to put a pin through it, and I don't have to put any different washers and nuts and anything like that. It's just simple. Slide some stuff on, let her rip. Same thing with the top section. It's just a simple knob here, and screwing these knobs in is easy. And they have a section in the knob that will, if this did vibrate off, it won't physically come all the way out. So how it's put together is great. You need a Phillips screwdriver to put your wand holder on, and that's about it. As far as where it stores the hose, it's in back. Pretty simple as to, it's just hook and loop, put her in. This unit is not complicated. I like that. I like the fact that it's not loud. I like the fact that it was super easy to start. I even did hot starts. The cold starts were fine. No issue. Now, long-term, years and years of use, I'm not going to be able to tell you at this point. We're going to continue to use this, and I'll continue to comment below as to how it's working, so ask me those questions below. But if you're interested in a lesser expensive pressure washer, really can't say anything bad about this. My expectations when I purchased it were not super high. I didn't expect this to be, wow. And realistically, as I went through it and the more and more I worked with it and what I've seen with it, I really think that this is just a comparable unit to anything that you would find in the big box stores in the US. It's sad that we're losing a lot of the brands and we're not seeing everything come back. And this might be where we end up at some point. I'd like to see more of this stuff with American-made components. We're not there, and people aren't willing to pay for that at this point in time, and I hope someday that we will, or someday we can actually compete in that market. But right now, if you want a low-end gas pressure washer that works, this is it. I'll take any of your questions that you have and answer them below. It's one of those things where we get a lot of questions, again, on electric pressure washers. And I'm going to tell you, if you're on Amazon looking at an electric pressure washer, it's going to be 1800 PSI. I don't care if they say it is 3600 PSI or whatever. It's going to be 1.2 to 1.4 gallons per minute in 1800 PSI. That's about where you're at. Your PSI is how much it'll clean to a point, and your gallons per minute is how fast it will clean it. So it's a matter of how quick you can move over a surface and how much pressure you're putting on that surface. So low gallons per minute means it's going to be fairly slow because you're not putting as much water on. You might have the pressure, but you need gallons per minute to do things fast. It's an interesting way of looking at things between gas and electric, but unless you go with 220 or 240 volt, you're not going to get the gallons per minute or the pressure that you really need to do a lot of the work that needs to be done around your house or even with vehicles. Now, some people will say you can't use this much pressure on a vehicle. False. Just don't use the 0 degree tip. And don't use a 0 degree tip while you're cleaning your house unless you're really trying to reach up somewhere. You have to be careful. You don't want to write your name in your house or on your car. These things will peel stickers and stuff like that if you're not careful and using the wrong tip. So, questions below. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, slam that like button and leave more comments. We appreciate your time, guys. Hope you have a great day. See you next time.